Women complain that men do not listen, and men say that women nag, and women say we nag because he doesn't listen. So how to kind of break this barrier? How to kind of resolve these issues where people are not standoffish, but they can actually understand the place from where the other person is coming, which is like I find it very surprising. Two people are wedded for life, they're living with each other, they share the same bed, and yet there's so much of mental distance from each other. They can't understand. That's something very surprising. So what do you have to say about such people who are wanting to bridge this gap between their relationship?
So you're absolutely right, Shivi, and it's a real pity that, again, this goes back to what skills and training we've been provided. Are we ever taught to communicate or to listen? That is the question. So here, women are nagging because they don't know how to speak in a way that they will be heard. And men are not listening because they haven't developed the art of listening. And in a lot of couples therapy, this is one thing that I work very actively with the men, where I help them listen and I help the women learn, or in fact, both partners learn how to speak each other. That puts them into learning mode rather than into conflict mode. So typically, there are three areas. And the first is how to communicate effectively. Here, when we just talk about the process involved, you first need to check in with yourself and know, what am I feeling? Now, very often women just react. They're not even entirely sure, or whether it's men or women, it's not specific. I don't think it's always women who nag, and I don't want to categorize them like that. But I'm saying partners, when they're upset and they want to approach or problem solve, they go straight into their reaction and saying, tumne ye nahi kiya, ya tumne ye nahi kiya. That's blame mode, attack mode. Instead of first checking in and saying, okay, do I know what I'm really angry about or upset about? And why am I feeling this? So first excavate your own mind, your thoughts, and your feelings. Then you need to know how to express that problem without blaming, shaming, or complaining. Thirdly, you need to then observe to see how what you're saying is landing for the other. Is that person going into protection mode? Is that person wanting to run away? How is that person behaving? And finally, you need to reconfirm if what you're trying to express has been interpreted correctly or not. These 4 steps are very, very important, because usually what happens is one person who's feeling upset or angry and agitated is going to say something which is provocative, or which will, in simple words, piss the other person off. That other person will react because they're feeling threatened. So they'll go straight into protection mode. When you're in protection mode, no learning can take place. So he's shut down or she's shut down. They're not even listening to your problem now. And because they've shut down, you feel you're not being heard. And this just becomes worse with time. And then both of them, either they decide not to talk to each other. The problem is lost in the reactions. There is no learning happening here. And this is usually either people will be silent for days and not speak to each other, or pretend everything is normal, brushed under the carpet, but the pain keeps accumulating inside and the relationship becomes more and more distant. The second thing is that you must know when to communicate. You can't fly off the handle and expect that the other person is going to be very calm. The other person is not a loving parent. The other person is your equal. You're going to react, they are going to react, and there's nothing's going to come out of it. So find the right time. And I usually say, if you're feeling upset about something, take time off to check in with yourself, to come to some understanding of the problem within yourself, and then find the right opportunity when the partner is not in a reactive mode to sit down and say, hey, can we talk about this? And then both of you are working towards finding solutions, addressing each other's problems. You're willing to be heard. You're not walking away or shutting down. It's not a fight or flight happening over there. And the third is differentiate between reaction and response. Again, I know a lot of us, we have a lot of information available on the media, but how many of us actually are aware when I am reacting and when I am in a position to respond? If I'm agitated, if I'm overwhelmed, I'm definitely not going to be in a responsive mode. I am definitely going to react. And when I react, the other person is only going to shut down because they are feeling threatened. So there's just no point doing that. We have to understand that when we expect the other to respond, firstly, we have to be in peaceful mode because a response is a peace talk. So just imagine if two countries are going to war and ready to drop a nuclear bomb, right? That is when both of you are reactive. All you're going to do is drop those nuclear bombs. But if you are looking at having peace talks with two countries, how would you go into those peace talks? How will you you will discuss, you will negotiate, you will listen to each other, you will want to shift your position, have an open mind, be willing to see their perspective too. Does this really happen in a real marriage? It's not happening because we don't have the skills of communicating, of listening, of speaking in a way like we can be heard. Whenever we speak, couples will start by saying, he's not doing this, she's not doing that. I've told her so many times to do this. No, I always mention this training start with how you are feeling. So instead of saying, you let me down, you take the ownership and say, I felt let down yesterday. So immediately you're not pointing a finger, but you're sharing a emotional state with the other. And they're more likely to listen to you than if you go in there with all guns raging. So what can you do to improve the communication in the marriage? First, check in to understand your own feelings, your level of threat, and your reactiveness. If you're feeling very threatened, very angry, very reactive, please don't have a talk. Take time, figure yourself out, then go into peace talks. Secondly, soothe yourself first. When you're feeling agitated or angry, your nervous system is in a state of chaos. Your intellect is clouded. You are brain fogged. You can't see things clearly. Anything that comes out of your mouth is likely to be wrong at that point in time. You need to feel safe before you go into a peace talk. Schedule time for discussions and do it in an environment that is calm, conducive to listening for both people. Whatever you want to express in that peace talk, please do it without blaming, shaming, criticizing, or complaining. Be specific. And remember, your aim is to harmonize. Your aim is to, at the end of that discussion, make both people feel united again. Like we are on the same page, we have the same goals, we're in it for the long run. Clarify if required, because very often I find that couples don't clarify and people misunderstand, misinterpret. And so it's always good to say, have you understood me? Have I been able to communicate effectively? Would you like me to expand on this further? Learn to listen better without interrupting. This is an important one because very often I've seen men tend to, when somebody is talking in this nice way and they are being received well, the men will want to jump in and fix the problem for you. And very often women don't want to fix the problem because they know how to fix the problem. They're capable of fixing the problem. They simply want to be heard. So just listen to them very intently. And some men will get very offended if while they are speaking to you, the woman keeps interrupting with her thought. Let each person speak their heart out. When they're completing, the other should speak. So it should be done in a very, very honoring way when you have these peace dialogues. It's important to check in with the other how they are feeling, because if somebody is shut down, they might just go into quietness, not because they're feeling resolved, but because they're saying, "Arey yaar, isse ab ladai karke koi fayda nahi, chup hi ho jao." So if they've gone into that zone, then you've actually not reached the gates of peace. Then maybe you need to say, have I said something to upset you? Why are you feeling shut down? You need to continue that dialogue. Both partners need to create safe space. Now, most of us don't know how to hold space for each other, but without holding space, you cannot reach any peaceful resolution. And finally, it's very important. You must recognize both your own and your partner's hot buttons. When you're having peace talks, please avoid hot buttons, because very often you're seeing the peace talks opens very nicely. Then when a difficult conversation comes up, then they are passive aggressive comments. There may be some under the belt comments. There may be something which is a reaction because you got triggered and you said something. Awareness of hot buttons means that you have to promise yourself, no matter what happens, I am not going to say these things. So as you can see, all of this takes a fair amount of maturity. And this is something that I say that it's part of your workout, which is why when I put that social media post out today saying that you really need to work out to have a good marriage, that means you need to learn to speak without provoking the other or blaming the other. And you need to learn to listen, and you need a good enough knowledge of each other's hot buttons.